What's up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. Or, of course, if you are watching on our fast-growing YouTube channel on the race for 10,000 subscribers right now. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner, and joining me, as he always does, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And AJ, here to talk a little Carolina versus Marquette in Fort Worth, Texas, in Carolina's opening round game of the NCAA tournament, 4:30, if I can talk. PM tip out in Texas. That game will be on TBS. It's Carolina, an 8 seed, Marquette, a 9 seed. We're going to dive deeper into that matchup here in a second. But before we do that, got a really exciting promo going on at TarHeelIllustrated.com that we're recording this one on Monday. Just put this one out about 5 minutes before you hopped on this podcast, AJ. So that's
why I was late to the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I was late to my own podcast. How about that?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, does it? This is hot off the presses right here. TarHeelIllustrated.com. Head on over. Link in the description below. $22, just $22 for a 1-year subscription. That's just $1.83 a month. Premium subscription, $22 for 1 year with the promo code TarHeels22. Now, this does end on Thursday, the day of Carolina versus Marquette. So get signed up before then. But I'm going to say that one last time for the people they might not even think they're hearing this right now. $22 for a 1-year premium subscription at TarHeelIllustrated.com. Just $183 a month. Promo code TarHeels2022. It's a heck of a deal, AJ. Heck of a deal right there.
Yeah, you could be an insider too for $22. I mean, that's less than the price of a candy bar. And with Gigi Jackson announcing his plans here pretty soon, nobody's more plugged in than David Sisk. And the only way to get David's information, and in fact, he's writing something tonight. So we're going to get this out fairly soon, probably Tuesday night. But
yep.
David will have already posted his piece. And if you can't read it because you're not a subscriber, sign up and you can read it.
Got to sign up.
And it's the boards. See, so much is on the boards. You can only see certain things on the front page, but on the boards, there's so much more information. That's what really gives it a great deal of value. That's what people are telling me all the time, especially we've had hundreds of new subscribers this year, Jacob. And that's what most of them say, man, it's the stuff on the boards that keeps me coming back.
Yep, 100%. You can get access to our live game chats as well. We have a really awesome community. Those are always fun. I've always enjoyed getting involved with those live game threads as well. So if you want all that jazz, head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com. Link in the description below where you can be an insider too. So AJ, let's dive into this matchup. Carolina sitting at 24-9. Obviously finished the ACC season 15-5 and won 12 of the last 15 games. So pretty hot team right now. They lost to Virginia Tech in the manner in which it went down. Maybe left a little bit of a sour taste in Carolina's mouth and maybe in some Carolina fans' mouth with how it went down. But I think this is a team with a lot of confidence and a team that it should be, I think, when you look at what they've done over the past couple months, feeling pretty good going in to Thursday against Marquette. So AJ, before we dive into Marquette, I've got a list of notes right here. I've been diving into Marquette for the last hour or so before we hopped on here, getting to know the Golden Eagles a little bit.
Doing a lot of diving, are you?
I'm telling you, man. That's one of my go-to words when I hop on these podcasts. I'll tell you that for free. So AJ, what are your?
We all have our podcast isms for sure.
Exactly.
I look away. You were like, "What are you looking at over there?" I have no idea. Looking away, it's a natural reaction.
It is, man. I'm telling. It is kind of funny to go back and watch and realize some of the stuff you do, and you don't even realize you're doing it in a podcast.
Exactly.
You're like, I did that like 15 times. But what are your thoughts before we dive into Marquette? What are your kind of just initial thoughts about Carolina? We already hit on it in a podcast that we did on the Selection Sunday. So if you guys want to hear a little bit more, go listen to that. But just kind of your initial thoughts going into Thursday night, where Carolina is right now, and the confidence that I think this team should have going into that Marquette game.
Well, and this is in advance of the press conference that's Tuesday morning in person. Press conference that I'm going to miss because I'm going to be in the air traveling to Fort Worth. I didn't expect them to have something live in person on Tuesday because we also have media availability in Fort Worth on Wednesday. And if you're going to be there or be out in that area, Carolina has its open practice to the public, which is free on Wednesday afternoon. So if you go, come say hey. Would love to. I always love go everywhere we go, having a chance to meet subscribers and Carolina fans and stuff. But I think this club is going to be fine. I didn't think that the Virginia Tech game was an alarming sign of anything. I just think it was a club that had a lot invested in the prior couple of weeks. And sometimes you just sort of hit a little bit of a wall. And I don't think it was the worst thing to happen because they got Saturday off. Sunday was mostly kind of relaxed day. I think they did some guys shot around and then they got together for the bracket announcement. And Monday ready to roll. For guys that age, that's plenty to get refreshed, and they'll be focused. And they have an opponent this week that definitely will have their attention, a team that can certainly beat them. And I also think it's a great opportunity because they know if they can get that one, they're probably going to get a shot at a number 1 seed. So, you really can't ask for a whole lot more. If you're a Carolina fan and you're sitting here right now thinking about, okay, you got Marquette in an 8-9 game Thursday, and then if you win that, you get number 1 seed Baylor, defending national champion, 89 miles from its campus. You think, boy, that's a tough task. But you know what? This is a great thing because about 6 weeks ago, very few Carolina fans thought this was even possible. So the Tar Heels have created a wonderful opportunity for themselves. They're going to have to play very, very good basketball, some of their best basketball of the year, just to get to Saturday. Mm-hmm. And I'm supremely excited, or to steal a Sam Howell word, I'm super excited, or words, to see how this team responds, because I have seen growth. We have discussed the increments of growth that this team has gone through over the last month plus, and it'll be very interesting to see how much of that pours out on the court at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth on Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a good one. Just for those who are into this kind of stuff, Carolina 2.5 point favorites going in to Thursday night against the Eagles. Let's dive a little bit deeper into Marquette, though, AJ. Marquette, a team sitting at 19-12 right now, finished 11-8 in Big East play, 6th place in the league. Shaka Smart, first-year head coach for Marquette. Obviously, Steve Wojciechowski was the former Duke player, was the coach last year. And before that for Marquette, obviously a lot of Carolina fans will remember that game. Marquette coming into Chapel Hill and beating Carolina by 13 points in what wasn't a game that really wasn't supposed to happen in the first place because of some COVID stuff and everything like that. So tough one for the Tar Heels last year. But saying that, this is a completely different team in a lot of ways, not only coaching staff-wise, but player-wise, than what last year's Marquette team had as well. And for those wondering, Shaka Smart, I think I've heard that before, former Texas coach, former VCU coach as well, for those maybe who have I think I've heard that name, but I can't put a face to it. I think this is a good Marquette team, though, AJ. I really do. I think this is a Marquette team that over the last month, maybe month and a half, has been a little bit Jekyll and Hyde, kind of like the Tar Heels were for a big portion of this season, and kind of been able to turn around over the last month and a half of the season, a little bit different to what Marquette's obviously doing. But when you look at some of their notable wins against some of their opponents they played this year, that's the first thing I want to hit on before we dive into some of the guys you got to look out for and a little bit more specifics on what Carolina has to do to win this game. But just kind of running down the list, it's pretty impressive. Got the number 22 strength of schedule in the country. Carolina sitting number 52. Illinois beat number 10 Illinois early in the year. Number 16 Providence beat them by 32 points early in the year in conference play. Actually had a really impressive stretch towards the middle of the season. They beat number 20 Seton Hall, 11th ranked Villanova, and 20th ranked Xavier in back-to-back-to-back games in conference play. Beat number 12 Villanova later in the year, so 2 wins over a really good Villanova team. But you look at that and you're like, okay, they've beaten some ranked opponents. Impressive kind of way they've been able to go into some environments and win games against big time opponents on the road and at home as well. But then you kind of dive into the last month and a half of the season. It kind of changes up a little bit. Marquette lost 6 of their last 10 games after winning 7 straight in the middle of the year. That 7-game win streak included those wins over Seton Hall, Villanova, and Xavier back-to-back-to-back nights. So lost to Creighton in the Big East tournament quarterfinals as well. And like I mentioned, their strength of schedule is pretty impressive, sitting at number 22 nationally. So looking at that, AJ, I know the last half of the quarter of the season hasn't maybe gone as well as the earlier parts and the middle part of the season was going for this Marquette team, but make no mistakes about it. This is a Marquette team that has quality wins. They've beaten quality opponents. They've proven that they can compete in those environments, which is something Carolina has struggled with this year and hasn't really had to experience as much because of how down the ACC has been as a whole. But it was something that surprised me a little bit looking at just how many opponents, good opponents, quality opponents that Marquette had beat this season.
Yeah, the high end is a great way to focus on a team when you're going into the tournament, because you don't want to get, if you're a player or a coach, you don't want to get lost in the weeds with the bad stuff, because you should expect the good stuff. But the bad stuff is kind of there too. They lost to DePaul and Butler during that stretch that you're talking about, and those are not very good teams. But they got 2 wins over Villanova. Providence was the regular season Big East champ, and they pounded them. They also have The Illinois win, Illinois is a team that a lot of people thought at that time could win a national title and still think they could get to a Final Four.
Yeah.
At that time of the season when Carolina's playing Tennessee, Purdue, and Kentucky, what's happening? They're getting blasted by Tennessee and Kentucky, and Carolina fans, we were complimentary of the way they played against Purdue, and they still lost by 9 on a neutral floor. So that shows you maybe where Marquette was as opposed to where Carolina was. I do think that Carolina has been ascending for a while. I think you can look Jekyll and Hyde in the Big East. It's a good league. Creighton's also in that league. Seton Hall's in the tournament. I mean, it's a better league than the ACC this year. So then you have more high-end stuff. So I think that Marquette is a club that poses a considerable challenge to the Tar Heels just based on their resume alone, but it's also the way they play. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting here is Marquette, their head coach, Shaka Smart, he was the head coach at Texas last year. Texas beat Carolina in the finals of the Maui Invitational in Asheville. I covered that.
God, that seems like so long ago.
Excuse me. Yeah, it does.
That seems like an eternity ago. That's wild.
That was where we had no place to actually work. So I actually had to use my laptop on my lap.
Yeah. We were doing the Three Things videos in like the banquet hall or something like that. I don't even know what it was.
Yeah. With someone cleaning up behind me, tapping their foot, waiting for me to end so they could run the washer or something. But they play the way you saw Texas play, and it's a lot of clutch and grab stuff. So how does clutch and grab affect Carolina? Well, it affected them in that game. And I think it could affect them Thursday. The difference is Carolina didn't have a guy like Brady Manick then, and they have him now. And I think Brady Manick is sort of an equalizer to the clutch and grab approach that you're going to see from Marquette. Marquette's not super big, so they're going to have to decide what they're going to do. Are they going to double on Armando? If they double on Armando, that means they pull some away from Brady. You saw what happened to UVA when they doubled on Armando early in that game, and you have to leave somebody open, and often it was Brady being left open because of the way Carolina moved the ball. And if Brady's catch and shoot threes with nobody on him and he's on, then that's a difference maker in a game against anybody. And I think that that's Carolina's recipe to win. Get Brady going early, because usually when he gets going early, he can carry you for a while. That's sort of that was the way he was at Oklahoma, and it's pretty much been the way he's been at Carolina as well. And I think those opportunities are there because they're going to go in and say, look, don't let that guy that almost won ACC Player of the Year beat us, the guy that got the most votes for the All-ACC team. Don't let the guy that goes 16-13 every night beat us. So you take your chances that maybe Manick will not be hot. He'll be off. Maybe Caleb will be off. Maybe RJ will be off. But they know that Armando has been so consistent. They have to put their focus on him.
Absolutely.
So doing that with some doubles and the clutch and grab stuff with the rest of the guys, people are going to be open. If they can get Brady open, there's going to be a lot of shots there for him. So I think Carolina's recipe in winning this game is Brady Manick going off. And you know what? He's played 155 college games outside of Leaky Black before last season. Last season's minutes, he's the only guy that's played NCAA tournament minutes prior to last year. So when I'm talking about veteran experience with the full crowd there, and Leaky played 27 minutes in 2019. And that's because Carolina had 2 lopsided wins in Columbus. So Brady's played a lot of minutes. He's had a 19-point game in the tournament, an 18-point game in the tournament with fans there. So he knows how to do this. And I fully expect that he could be the weapon that gets them by Marquette and gets them by Shaka Smart.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to see how good Brady Manick can be and what a game changer he can be, just go back and watch the Virginia game in the ACC tournament. There's probably a handful of other games you can go back and watch as well. But I do agree with that. I think Brady Manick is a guy that, with his ability to stretch the floor, when he's hot, he makes his Carolina team a lot better because he usually gets some other guys clicking on all cylinders as well. And if you can get a couple other guys like Armando, like Caleb, like RJ going as well, I think this is a really dangerous Carolina team. AJ, I want to dive into specifics about Marquette real quick, and we can kind of hit on that. It starts with Justin Lewis at the forward position, all Big East first team player, 6'7" forward. So he's kind of a guy similar to Brady that can kind of step out and hit threes. 6'7", he's not somebody you're going to worry about too much in the post, but he does have that ability to play with his back to the basket, averaging 17.1 points per game, 7.9 rebounds per is the guy for Marquette. And it really, really goes through him and starts with him. Now, some interesting tidbits about Marquette specifically. Marquette's average offense, team that likes to play fast, kind of similarly in transition to like what Carolina likes to do at times. Marquette averaging an offensive possessions is the 5th shortest in the country. So their average offensive possession, 5th shortest in the country for Marquette. And just kind of a little bit of a comparison to Carolina, both Carolina and Marquette are averaging roughly 70 possessions per 40 minutes. So a team that likes to get out and transition, get out and do and play fast like that. Now, a couple other things to hit on that I think, and this is where I think this game can be won for the Tar Heels. Not a good rebounding team, Marquette. Second to last in Big East with 34.7 boards per game. As a comparison, Carolina led the ACC, averaged 39.8 rebounds per game. That's where I think it's won. I mean, I think if you can get a guy like Armando Bacot involved, if you can get a guy like Brady Manick out there hitting threes, maybe getting some rebounds for you down lows, is a good rebounding team. I know Carolina's guards like to get involved with that and get out in transition as well. That's where I think this game is won, because when you look at that, that's Marquette's weakness. They don't necessarily have a 6'9", 6'10", 6'11 guy down there that dominates. Justin Lewis, 6'7", is their best player in the post as well. So I think that's where it's won. If Carolina can dominate the glass, get some guys hitting outside shots, get Armando going a little bit, I think this is a game Carolina can win relatively comfortably. But I do think
have a couple.
Go ahead. Yeah.
They have a couple of big guys that rotate in the post, but they're number 324 nationally in rebound margin, which I think is the most important stat in rebounding. They're at minus 4.3 a game. Carolina's not been very good this year. At least they haven't been very Carolina-like in offensive rebounding. It's picked up in the last month. They're up to around 33% of their grabbing their own misses on the season. They were under 30%, in early December, in early February. So they have picked that number up, and they've kind of increased a little bit their points per offensive rebound, which is a very important stat. What's the point in getting a bunch of putbacks if you're not scoring on them, right? But Carolina, an underrated stat line, and I guess, blame me for not promoting this a little bit more, but they've been very good at defensive rebounding. They don't give up a lot of offensive rebounds. So in a game like this, because of the advantage they're going to have on the glass, if they defend and force Marquette to take tough shots and they don't turn the ball over the other end, because part of Marquette's offensive possession time averages have a lot to do with getting some easy transition buckets because they force some steals. If Carolina can take care of the ball and keep Marquette off the glass, being out of character on the offensive glass, then they're going to force Marquette to have to shoot like 50% to win this game if the Tar Heels are average offensively, average for themselves. So those are two big things, though, because the NCAA tournament, often something happens out of character which helps the team advance. It's very typical, especially two teams that haven't played each other. They don't know each other, because Marquette has three guys on the roster that were on the roster last year when they beat Carolina. Greg Elliott's the only guy that played in that game. He had 15 points last year and 4 steals, but he's only averaging about 7.5 points a game this year. He's not one of their top couple of options. So they're going to have to, if they get a bunch of offensive rebounds and they're out of character and they're getting putbacks, they'll win this game.
Yeah.
If Carolina can keep the turnovers down, and what turnovers they do have not lead to immediate baskets or secondary break types things, which has been an issue at times for the Tar Heels this year. Opponents score a high volume of points off turnovers. They do it in myriad ways. It's not just straight down the court for a fast break dunk. There are times when a team may have 20 points off Carolina turnovers, but only 8 fast break points. So Carolina doesn't get back well. They don't get set well after a turnover. They're not very good transition from this end of the court to that end of the court, finding their guy picking up and getting into lockdown mode. They struggle with that, and they give up a lot of shots. So if you don't turn the ball over and you don't miss a crap load of shots, you're not putting yourself in position to do something that has been a consistent issue with this team. So keep them off the glass, don't turn it over, and be your usual selves, whatever is average for Carolina. They've been so wild all over the place. We don't really know exactly what the average is, but find their average and be that offensively with shooting. And I think Carolina will be in pretty good shape in this game.
Yeah, agreed, AJ. I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I said in my staff picks earlier today, not to pat myself on the back or anything like that, AJ, but I think it's going to be a tight one. I think I had Carolina winning 81-74. I think is kind of what I'm feeling. I think it's going to be a tight one for 38 minutes. I think Carolina hits some free throws down the stretch. Marquette starts fouling a little bit because of how well Carolina's a free throw shooting team. We've seen that a few times this year. But I think it's going to be a good one to watch because it's 8-9 seed. You expect these teams to be pretty even anyway in terms of what they've been able to do in the regular season. So any predictions for this one, AJ, and kind of what you're thinking about?
Yeah, I haven't done my pick yet. That's pretty high scoring for an NCAA tournament game.
I know. I was kind of thinking that in my head. I was like, that might be a little too high. But
if
that's
Carolina
been my sweet
scores
spot this year is an 80-70 range.
Yeah, unless Carolina is just garbage on defense, if they score 75 or more points, they're going to win this game.
Yeah.
So, but unless they're garbage on defense, and we've seen times that they've been garbage on defense this year, pretty bad. I don't want to say garbage, that's not a fair word, but they've struggled on defense at times.
Yeah.
I just don't sense the struggle. I think they're going to be ready to go. I think they're going to be locked in. They have a lot of things fueling them in this game. If you want to find things dangling from the sky that you can yank down and kind of wrap yourself around, one of them is the Marquette factor. If you want to use that, go ahead. It's a small little dose, but maybe it's something. Another one is, hey, Hubert can say, that coach beat you in the championship last year in Maui, or, well, in Asheville, the Maui Invitational. If they want to use that, they can. If they want to focus on Greg Elliott and say, if they want to focus on Greg Elliott and say that guy played out of character last year and that beat us, they can. If they want to think back to last year in the NCAA tournament, how they played against Wisconsin in Roy's last game, I think they'll get more fuel from that than anything else, because that's a more tangible connection. There's really no connection to Shaka. There's really no connection to this Marquette team from last year's team. If anything, they know what it's like to not properly approach an NCAA tournament game, because they did it last year and they got their rear end handed to them by Wisconsin. It was an embarrassing performance. And it was Roy's last performance, the only time he ever lost a first-round game in the NCAA tournament. So if they want to find fuel outside of, hey, we're in the tournament, we have a chance to make some noise, let's win this game, and maybe we get the top seed in the region, the defending national champs, or maybe their motivation is, let's just play well.
Yeah,
we've been playing pretty well lately. Let's just play well. I would imagine. I don't know if Hubert does the win one for the Gipper type speeches, the Rockney speeches. If you go to Rudy and think of Sean Astin in the locker room, I don't know if Hubert has that in him. I'd love to find out.
Yeah, I'd love to know too.
But I think just being zeroed in, locked in, and just, guys, you got a lot of things to play for. Most importantly, who you are right now. Don't worry about last year. Don't worry about all this other stuff. Just be the best you could be right now, and you should advance. Now, I think ultimately that will be the message from Hubert. I think that's the best way to approach this game, because you can't win last year's game by winning big in this game.
No.
So just go out and play, be who they are, and get Brady a lot of touches and get him touches early. And I think that they have a chance to win this game and be impressive doing so.
Definitely, AJ. Good stuff. Thank you. It's a good place to wrap this one up. Real quickly before we head out too, AJ, I know you're obviously flying out on Tuesday. You'll already probably be there by the time this podcast goes out.
By the time we run this, I'll be there. Yeah.
Just give people a quick, I know a lot of people kind of interested. I know you mentioned earlier in the podcast too, of what kind of goes on before the tournament, what the open practice is. Can you guys just give people a quick kind of rundown of what the week looks like before the Thursday game?
Well, I would love to tell everybody, but I don't know what restrictions there will be, because we're still under the COVID umbrella. Mm-hmm. I do know that the locker rooms will be closed. My favorite part about the NCAA tournament, this may sound kind of, journalist geeky or something like that, but I love the open locker room the day before a game.
Yeah.
Because you get an hour, you get to go in there and just go to different guys, sit down, talk with them, and you can get unique stories. That's where we find some really unique, interesting stories that we're not going to get when the guys are at a dais. We're not going to get on Zoom and stuff like that. So I'm going to miss that, but there will be things. I mean, the open practice is always great. Carolina always does a dunk thing at the end of it. I assume Hubert will do the same thing that Roy's always done. And it's a chance to see the guys up close. And it's a very relaxed situation for media. So I don't have to grind. I mean, I'll grind out a lot of content, but during the practice, I'm just kind of observing and kind of having a little bit of fun and sort of exhaling a little bit. So by and large, it's interviews, lots of interviews. It's a lot of transcribing. It's a lot of story writing, a lot of notebooks, a lot of stuff put on the message boards, and hopefully some conversations that are off the record where I can get some information and help me understand the program that I'm covering better than I do. So the NCAA tournament's a lot of fun. It's a grind, but it's a lot of fun. I hope we're as close to pre-COVID normal as possible in Fort Worth this week, because if that's the case, I'm going to have a ton of stuff, and maybe some neat little scoops that will be on the board. I'm not going to put that on free content. Some will be free content. A lot of it will be premium content.
Yeah. And guys, if you want that premium content, it's a great segue to exactly what I was going to mention before we hopped off edge. I'll point to the passer on that one. I appreciate you for that one. Make sure you guys.
Well, this is a North Carolina basketball podcast. You have to point to the passer, right?
It's only right because that was a perfect assist right there.
I mean, I'm sure Dean Smith didn't know about podcasts by the time he passed, but if he did, he would appreciate you pointing the passer on a podcast.
He definitely would. And if the 1 in a billion chance that Roy Williams is watching this, he'd appreciate it too. That's why I said 1 in a billion.
Unless Wanda's watching it and hands it to him to show him, he's not watching this.
He's not.
He's not watching it either.
He has no idea we even have a podcast. Make sure you guys head on over to TarHeelIllustrated.com, where you can be an insider too. Like AJ mentioned, we've got an awesome promo going right now. We're going to have a ton of content coming from the NCAA tournament that you can only see if you're signed up for that premium subscription. 1 year for just $1.83 a month. It's just $22 for 1 year premium subscription. Use that promo code TarHeels22 to get that. And don't forget, guys, it ends Thursday. So we don't want anybody hopping there on Friday like, what the heck, I can't get this anymore. It ends on Thursday. So take advantage of that.
And you know what? It's actually a really good gift idea too. So
yeah, it is.
We ran something similar back in the fall, and 3 or 4 people reached out to me and said, I got like 3 or 4 Christmas presents out of the way, but you can give this kind of a gift in the spring as well. So
I love it. That's fantastic. That's a great gift idea. It really is. And you can't really beat $22 for one.
Don't let them know you use the promo to think you spent $100 on it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let
get like 4 and people are like, man, you're a big roller. You spent $400. You only spent $88.
I'm telling you guys, it's worth it. $22 1 year subscription. Huh? $183 a month. I keep saying that because it's just unbelievably cheap. It's like a candy bar a month. You can't even get a candy bar for $1.83 anymore, guys. So use that promo code. Link in the description below.
You can't even fill up my Myrtle Beach Pelicans cup with gas for $1.83.
No, you really
have to stop like right here. This is Diet Dr. Pepper in here. So you couldn't even fill up a can of Diet Dr. Pepper.
Hey, man, I like that cup too. I wouldn't have expected you.
Myrtle Beach Pelicans.
I wouldn't have expected you to have that. That kind of threw me off a little bit.
My brother lives in Myrtle Beach, and I went to a minor league game there last year. So
I thought maybe they were an Orioles affiliate or something. Doesn't seem to be the case.
They're birds. They probably beat the Orioles. So I do have Orioles cups. I'm sure you're shocked to know that.
Exactly, guys. That's a good place to wrap this one up. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Again, link in the description to sign up for TarHeelIllustrated.com. $22 1 year subscription. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell as well, so you know every single time we upload. And I can't say this enough either. Hit that subscribe button, guys. Share it with your friends. We're getting really close to 10,000. I'd like to hit it before the end of basketball season, so the Tar Heels can keep winning a little bit. You guys keep subscribing. We'll get there before too long, so we'll be there before you know it. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.
Thanks.